said, no, it's not. The Quran is not preserved. Have you looked at the study of the preservation of the Quran?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me put it to a question to you.
Yes. How did you study the
Can
preservation?
you read the Quran in the British Museum?
I can read it, yes.
Okay. Can all Muslims read it? Because it's in a different language.
Majority of Muslims can read Arabic, yes.
Okay, but that's not
They may not
Arabic.
understand it, but they can read it.
But that's not modern day Arabic.
Well, yeah, ancient Arabic. Well, obviously, there's anyone.
Because in theory, you should have to understand that book.
Let me just finish the point. The Arabic is the same. The only thing that's different, it won't have dialectical markings. Yeah, it won't have dialectical markings. They were added later for the correct recitation and pronunciation of the Quran for non-Arabs, non-native Arabs, right? The words, the ayat are the same. This is the key thing to understand. So when it comes to, I don't know how far you study the preservation of the Quran. Because if you look at the preservation of the Quran, it's the Quran, the predominant preservation of the Quran, it's an oral tradition. We have received it via mutawatir, which is recurrent reporting, right? So that's the main, because what people get hung up on is that, let me just finish the point. What people get hung up on is that, oh look, the Quran is a text, and if there's a previous manuscript which is a bit different or something's missing, therefore, oh my God, the Quran is not preserved. No, our primary mode of preservation is the oral tradition.
But didn't the third or fourth Khalifa ask for the other books to come back?
You're not listening to my point. If you're listening, you wouldn't ask the question, right?
But I'm asking that question.
No, but if you understood my point, you wouldn't ask the question. Even if we had no physical copy of the Quran in existence today, hypothetically speaking, it would make no difference to the preservation of the Quran because the Quran is an oral tradition. It arrives to us from the Prophet, peace be upon him, via mutawatir. It's recurrent reporting, right? And also, how do you cross-check that? We have places in the world today, Philip, where they are young children, 8, 9, 10 years old, in parts of Africa. Here's the thing. They don't, check this out, they don't have a written language, yet they have memorized the Quran in its entirety, and if you were to fly one of them over right now, get a hufad, someone who memorizes the Quran, they can cross-check each other and they will recite the same Quran cover to cover.
But for me, it's just a book. Written 1,500 years ago.
Do you not appreciate
Do
you not appreciate the magnitude of what I just said to you right now?
It's just a book.
Can you see it's preserved?
I could say the book of Confucianism is amazing scripture as well.
Do you agree it's preserved? Maybe if we use another book.
Preserved.
Yes. Okay,
So
fine,
nice.
fantastic. That because you didn't agree to that a few minutes ago.
That part is nice
fantastic.
for the tradition
now you
and
agree.
passing it down.
Okay, that's good. Because before you said you don't
just
believe
a
it's the okay. Before you said you don't believe it's preserved, but now you do, which is good. It's a good starting point.
I believe that it's preserved in the sense of the way it's been passed down by generations of people who can memorize every single word.
So it's preserved.
That part is nice.
Okay, fantastic, excellent. So now, Philip, the point is for you see it as just another book. Okay, fine, that's fair enough, that's your position. What I will say now, if we know it's preserved, the only thing we need to do now, preservation is not a question. The only thing we need to do now is to see, and by the way, the preservation is a miracle itself, if you think about it. Because most texts from that, if you go back that far in history, are not preserved. I can't think of anything, maybe you know, and I don't know of any texts that are preserved from over 1,400, 2,000 years ago. Okay, so that in itself is a very strong proof that there's something very unique about this book because, there's a very interesting verse in the Quran where God says that He has revealed the Quran and He is its guardian. He's going to protect it. It's very unique. And what we find is that the Quran is indeed protected and is preserved. So that in itself is a proof that this has divine origins. But you may not like
It's
that.
very thin.
Okay, that's fine. I respect that.
That's right, guys. We need to memorize this book.
So let me give you
learn it day in and day out,
Yeah,
like you see on TV in the madrasas, where those poor kids are just sitting there for hours, learning, reading, learning.
If you want,
You can do that in any culture.
Fine. But most cultures, I don't know of any other tradition that memorizes
They don't force it on a young child to do that.
If you go to, there's a channel called Talk Islam. It's called Quran Kids. It's a very beautiful video.
Yeah, it's on Skype.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a misconstrued point because majority of the youth, Muslim youngsters, obviously there are those people parents that force their children and so on, no doubt. But majority do it willingly because it's something you have to be willing to do. It's not easy.
Depends where they live.
Okay.
If they lived here in the UK, I would say maybe.
Let's put that.
If they're in Pakistan or some parts of Africa, I would say probably not.
Let's put that point aside. The key point is this: although forcing someone to do something and it's not correct anyway, but that's a side point. The point is this: let me build a cumulative case for you for the Quran being from God, because I know I gave you one, which is the preservation. You said it's a bit thin for you, right?
That doesn't say it's from God.
No.
Being passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I'm going to do, Philip, is I'm going to give you a cumulative, a case which is, it's like file stacked upon file. to the point where from a probabilistic perspective it's going to become impossible for you to sincerely deny that's from God. You may still deny it, but that's up to you. Okay? So, preservation is one thing. Another unique feature of the Quran is that it's very easy to memorize. Right? Although the majority of the people that memorize the Quran in the world are non-native Arabs. They don't even know what the Arabic means, but they can memorize it. Right? And God says in the Quran that He's made it easy for you to remember, so you would remember it, right? Which is fun. So it's another very unique thing. Another thing that the Quran says, which is being evidentially and empirically seen in reality, which is kids from Indo-Pakistani backgrounds, from British backgrounds, who have no knowledge of the Arabic language, can easily memorize the Arabic, cover to cover. Very unique, very special. Another point, let me build another case. Another unique feature of the Quran.
Still very weak.
Sure, I'll give you more. I'm going to keep giving you more.
I need something strong.
Sure. It's building. Let me build the case. The third unique thing about the Quran is that the message of the Quran is in line with human nature. Now, what do I mean by this? When you look at the concept of God in Islam, and for me this is one of the greatest evidences of miracle. When you look at the concept of God in Islam, do you know the concept of God in Islam?
In which aspect?
Which is that who God is in the Islamic tradition. What's His essence?
Besides His 99 names.
Well, those are His names and attributes. Who is He? Who is God?
Well, nobody knows.
Okay. No,
only 2 prophets met Him.
It's not the type of personal knowing. I'm talking about knowing through information.
Only 2 prophets met Him and spoke to Him.
Let me give you a background of what the Quran says. What the Quranic concept, what God tells us about Himself in the Quran. He is Ahad, which means He is uniquely one, a one without a second, and a one you can't break into any parts. Right? He is unlike His creation. It's not a one that you can try to amalgamate with creation in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Like the Christians would say God is one, but it's not Ahad because they break God into parts and they say that He came into this physical reality, He's born in flesh. You may say Wahid in Arabic, but not Ahad. Ahad is He's uniquely one. Okay? He is As-Samad, which means He's absolute, He's eternal, He is completely independent. He requires nothing and no one. But everything in creation is completely dependent upon Him. Right? He was not born and He does not give birth. And there is nothing like Him. You can't compare Him to anything within this physical reality. Okay. In a nutshell, that's who God is. Okay? Now, that concept of God is, if you look at cross-cultural, and you could do this yourself, go speak to many different people, whether they're atheists, agnostic, say, look, let me give you a concept of God. Does this make sense to you? If you were to believe in God, would this make sense to you? They would say, this is in line with what feels natural. It's because it's a part of human nature.
It's in line with all the other gods and movies and media that is forced onto us.
Absolutely not. Because when you see concepts of God in movies and media, it's totally different from what I've said to you.
No, it's not. It's the same.
Well, for example, you see old mythological movies where there's lots of mythology, and you have many gods fighting each other, and they look in physical form, and they're on earth. This is not God.
God of thunder.
No, we don't believe in that. There is no God of thunder. There is one God.
He's eternal.
No, but I'm telling you the Islamic perspective. Right? And I'm telling you one of the miracles of the Quran is that God is unlike anything you can imagine. He's one. There is no other. Right? Now this concept, if you were to take a child and put him on a desert island, and there's research that's done this by Justin O'Barrett as well, and ask him, who made these mountains? Who made these trees? They will say there's something behind them. There's a cause. If you were to press, I would argue, as to who this cause is, they will say there's one.
Depends where you get the child from. If the child is aware of religion, then he will say it was God.
No, there's research done on atheist children as well, by the way. Have a look at it. Olivera Petrovich.
A kid that goes to school would know about God.
Study
it's very hard
the
to
works
say.
of Olivera Petrovich. She's done study on children, and I believe it's not religious children, it's children in general. And what she's seen or shown is that the belief in God is natural. So the belief of God in Islam is very natural. The concept of God is very natural. And I believe that is a very strong proof for God that this is from God, this book, this Quran. That's number 3.
So you're talking about God being the natural instinct of human beings.
So what I'm saying
but yet no one's actually seen God.
No, so what I'm saying is that the concept of God you find in the Quran is in line with human nature. The human understanding of God is natural.
But has any human being seen God?
No, you can't see God.
Has any human being spoken to God?
You can't see God. That's besides the point.
But then if I was to talk to someone from a different faith, a Christian, they would say that they have a conversation
but I'm
with
not arguing for a Christian God.
No, I'm just saying their point of view. Yeah. They would say they have conversations with God.
Really
and on
true.
occasions they would see God.
Muslims have conversation with God 5 times a day.
But there's no response.
No, of course there is. If you look at the narration.
So God's spoken to you.
No, let me just make the point. you look at the tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, in one of the hadith, he says that when the believer, the slave of God, in salah, which is connection with God, is translated as prayer, and he is praying to God, and each time he recites Fatiha, which is the opening chapter of the Quran, with each verse there's a response. God responds to it. So there is a very deep connection.
So
Now, it's not, no, this is what I'm going to say. It's not the type of connection, the common type of human connection we have, which is the one we're having now. It's a much deeper and more profound connection. But that's besides the point. We'll come to it at the end. So that was that's point 3. Point number 4, and this is very profound. And I'm studying this right now. When you study the Arabic language and you look at the construct of the Quran, there's a lot of research that's been done on this. If you look at the Journal of Quranic Studies, there's a paper in this as well which points to these realities. The language,
eloquency of the language.
the literary structure and eloquency of the language, it's beyond anything any Arab can ever produce. You know, at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Arabs were known for their literary skills, their language, right? For example, in the Kaaba...
He's meant to be illiterate.
No, but the ones that...
Someone to conquer many nations,
sure, but that's the reason. The literate amongst them, the Arabs, they weren't known for anything else. But the literate amongst them, they had reached the pinnacle of the Arabic language. The structuring of it, the use of it for their poetry. Now, when the Quran came, this is why I believe one of the reasons the Prophet said that this was his miracle, is because when the Quran came, it descoped what they were doing. I'll give you an example in history.
But shouldn't that also be in the other books predating the Quran?
Not necessarily.
Why?
Because every prophet was given different miracles.
So how can God be eloquent in one book and not in the other?
I'm not saying God wasn't eloquent in previous books, but
we don't know what those previous books
exactly.
were.
So it's irrelevant to our discussion right now. So our discussion is about the Quran, right? So let's stick to that. The point being this.
The last book, Torah's first.
Sure, but we're discussing the Quran right now, so let's carry on, right? The point is this. That structure of the Quran, when the best, one of the best Arab poets at the time was sent to challenge the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he heard the Quran, he turned back and he left. Because he said, this is not from a man, this can't be produced by a man. Because he was someone that appreciated the structure and the use of the language, and he saw what the Quran was as something descoping the language, right? I'll give you a simple modern day example of what's going on here, just to put it in
I've heard that analogy before.
No, but let me make it real for you.
I haven't looked into it myself.
So let me help you with making it real, because at the moment it may be a bit abstract, right? Have you read a philosophy book? I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Okay. So take a philosophy book, the genre of philosophy. Have you read a book on poetry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Long time.
Okay, fantastic. Have you read a science textbook? Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you think about these 3 distinct genres, they're very unique in their style, right? For example,
they're only unique for the period which they're written in, because they can change.
That's fine. But what I'm talking about is the style, right? So take a philosophy book, right? Now you know what philosophy books known for? What are they known for?
Deep thought, deep
thought, depth, wisdom, so on and so forth. They're not the most pleasant to read. You won't find poetry in a philosophy book, right?
No.
Okay. Now, what is a book on poetry known for?
Poetry.
Yeah, it's the beautiful sound, the rhythm, the rhyme. It's not known for its philosophy necessarily, or its textbook style of facts. Yeah? What's the scientific textbook known for?
For work on scientific theories.
Yeah. So clear-cut, concise proofs, right? Evidences, certain facts, statements, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's what's unique about the Quran. And let me ask you this: if I was to ask you to take a philosophy book, the genre and the content of the philosophy book, take the skills of the poetry book, the eloquence and the style of the poetry book, take the factual nature of a scientific textbook, bring them all together, produce one book combining all of them together without losing anything from the original books as far as meaning and purpose. The answer is you can't do that. Because you'll end up, something will be compromised. Either the poetry, then rhyme will be compromised, either the depth and wisdom will be compromised, or either the knowledge will be, the scientific points will be compromised, the clear points will be compromised. And what's unique about the Quran is that it combines all of these genres.
I would beg to differ. The scientific aspects of the Quran.
No science. There's nothing to do with science.
What do you mean nothing to do with science? There's a whole array of books.
No.
Where's the book then?
We'll talk about the scientific miracles and stuff later. I don't believe in that approach. That's the side point. But my point is, you're bringing all of these genres together, and it's in the Quran, and it doesn't take away in any way, shape, or form. For example, let me give you an example.
The idea is nice, but in reality, it's not true.
You haven't studied Arabic. It's a very arrogant position to hold.
Name me one of the scientific proofs in the Quran.
I'm not talking about scientific proofs.
Well, why not?
Red herring.
Well, why not?
I was making a point on the literary and linguistic miracle nature of the Quran, and you're taking it off to science.
That part's nice. I haven't studied that aspect of it.
Let me
in
finish.
depth, so I can't speak on that.
Sure, but let me give you something more.
The scientific part, yeah.
No, let me give you something more on it before we move on, because we're jumping the gun otherwise, right? So here's the point. The Quran brings all of these different genres and more together, and it loses out in no way. For example, you will get in a particular verse of the Quran, the word choice is perfect, it's precise. The depth and wisdom is beyond scope, understanding. The rhyme is beautiful, it works, right? It's there, there's clear rhyme.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
The rhetorical device is used, for example, emphasis on certain words
Yep.
to make a certain point. It's there, it's all there, and it doesn't take away from any of these styles or any of these particular things. Yet it brings them together, and it's hard to comprehend how a book can do this. It's almost, I would argue, a miracle. I won't say miracle, but something very unique and special, which suggests that this is not the product of a man. This has to be from a different source, a divine source. Do you see the point?
I understand your point.
Okay.
I may not agree with your
Look
point.
into it further, right? I'll give you some references at the end for you can go and study this.
That's your fourth point.
Sure.
Fifth
Fourth point.
Fifth
Fifth point. Okay. Is certain historical facts that are mentioned in the Quran. Okay. You've probably gone through those. You've probably heard those many times before. I don't need to go into detail. Okay. Sixth point.
Okay.
Let's see what we've done. Okay.
Has to be the scientific.
No. When it comes to the scientific miracles, I don't ascribe to the scientific miracles.
Fine.
And I'll break it down for you in a
Honest.
nutshell. There's a reason for it. Because science is limited. It's based on induction. It's always changing. Okay. The Quran is absolute.
Second part,
The
true.
Quran is absolute and from God. Therefore, I won't use something limited and changing to prove something that's absolute. In a nutshell. If you want to study this further, there's a very beautiful essay.
But then
by
doesn't it fall back on you to prove the claims within the book for scientific miracles?
Well, we don't. Why? I don't use the
But
scientific
you
miracles.
do. Trust me, there's a
I
whole
don't.
array of literature.
What am I, Philip? You're talking to me. And this we're going through.
From
this-
embryology to the shape of the earth to earth.
Well, I don't take that approach. That's not my approach. Because I believe science is limited and changing. The Quran is absolute. Therefore, why are you using something limited to prove something that's absolute? It doesn't make sense.
Just helps
It was,
make
a,
the
it was,
claim even
it was a
more.
popular approach a few 20 or so years ago. But
Still
we have
is.
to be honest. We have to be honest. And if anything, it takes away from the Quran. I don't see why we have to do that. Science is a tool. It's a method we use to understand the world
So
around
honest,
us.
that's all.
Yes, there is mention of natural phenomena in the Quran. The Quran mentions the sun and the moon, and it mentions, for example, the water, and it mentions the earth, and it mentions these things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm not going to make a claim of scientific miracles, because to claim that, you have to say that what science is saying is absolute, and it doesn't. You see?
Question for you.
Yes.
So,
Can I ask you a question? I haven't asked you any
wait, one more
questions.
last question, because it's getting exciting over here.
Sure.
The last question. So, if God is all loving, all knowing, all merciful, right? God knows our journeys before we do.
Yes.
Right? We may have choices in our life, but God knows those choices. Okay. So why does God create billions upon billions of human beings over the last few thousand years, knowing that they are going to go to hell and have a life of torture? Because He knows that they're not going to subscribe to Islam. They know they're going to believe in something else or not believe, but yet He still creates knowing that they're going to hell. So for me, that's not a merciful God.
What I would say to that is, one, your understanding is wrong regarding these concepts. Two, I'll say what God says in the Quran, where He says, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ, which is, where are you going? Meaning, we talk about everything else and everyone else, but where are you going?
So is there an opportunity for a non-believer to enter the kingdom of heaven?
Like I said, Philip, well, you need to first ask yourself. Absolute. The point is absolute. The point is that's a discussion for the scholars to have. And I'll give you one of the nuances of that.
That's an honest answer.
Let me give you one of the
Because
nuances.
then I would say, then why do I need to
One
subscribe to
second. I'll
something?
tell you. One of the nuances is, imagine someone that's living on this earth, never hears the message of Islam, never knows about God. On the day of judgment, they'll have their test, right? And God knows best how they'll be tested. But God is a just God. He's not going to throw them into hell just because no one brought the message to them. However, Philip, for you, if
So
the
there
message
is
has come,
a possibility.
no, but if the message has come to you, yeah, there's a possibility, absolutely. For someone that hasn't had the message, I never say that God is going to put them in hell. God is going to judge them, because if they've never received the message of Islam,
Fine.
then God will give them a test on the day of judgment.
So is God loving when He sends those billions of human beings to hell?
So back to the questions, just to finish your original point. But when it comes to yourself, Philip, and like God says in the Quran, we worry about everyone else, and we'll discuss those things, but where are you going, Philip? If the message has come to you, and you're rejecting it, what's your state going to be after you die? That's the question you need to ask yourself.
That doesn't make me a bad person.
No, I'm not saying it does. What I'm saying is that you have to
Because
really
God would
question
know.
these things. Sorry?
God would know.
Yeah, but if God has brought the message to you over and over again, when you come to places like Speaker's Corner and you speak to Muslims, and you know that I've told you the concept of who God is today. I've told you that. I've told you proofs for the Quran, the miracles, the signs of the Quran, right? I've told you about
So
the
then
Prophet, peace be upon him.
God would need to decide, right, a non-believer who does good work like what you talked about before, the good aspects of being good, but yet I could be Muslim and I'm on Edgware Road participating in gambling and betting and smoking and drinking, but I'm still Muslim. So when I go to heaven, right, and maybe I do Ramadan every couple of years, sometimes I don't, I'm still Muslim. So you have a Muslim who doesn't follow scripture to a T, but yet you have an individual who doesn't partake in any of those substances abuse and things like that, but is generally a good person.
Yes.
So then God's theory about who goes into heaven is kind of like,
No, because there's an underlying thing there.
there are 7 different levels of heaven, but which heaven do
But
I...
Here's the thing, Philip. You made a good thing. So firstly, if there's any Muslims watching this, because many Muslims I don't fully practice, to be honest. Yeah? Many Muslims don't fully practice. But for them to understand this, that when they say La ilaha illallah, there is no deity worthy of worship except God alone. If they've said this, those words are so weighty that they themselves can carry anyone into heaven, right? It's about understanding and appreciating the nature
Even
and the
though
value.
they're
Absolutely.
bad Muslims.
They may
Muslim in name only.
Yeah, they may be punished. Yeah, they may go through.
Maybe.
Yeah, God knows best because we can't go specific.
So maybe I can get to heaven.
No, but you're saying the opposite. You're saying, say if someone denies God and lives a very good life and does good things. What I'll say to you is this: what you're undermining is how severe is the crime, the punishment of denying God, right? Which leads to such a punishment. That's where you need to question yourself. That's what you need to ask yourself. And just to give you a
Only
perspective,
God can have that.
just to give you another perspective on that. Imagine you say you do good, but you don't believe in God. Where did you get good from without God?
The same terminology you used maybe half an hour ago, the depiction of someone who follows your particular faith. You can do that without following your faith.
Yeah, you could be good without God.
Yep.
However, what is good? What is good? Without God,
Being
what is
generous,
good?
being kind,
Yeah, but where'd you
looking
get these
after
concepts
family,
from?
looking after people.
Where'd you get these concepts from?
Natural instinct.
Well, our random physical
Survival
process.
of the fittest.
Doesn't make sense. And so
You look after your...
you just
your
contradicted
closer.
yourself.
Have it?
If it's about survival of the fittest, then why would you be selfless and care for humanity?